Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Live Life Golden Show. This is episode 46, Increasing Self-Confidence in Manifesting and in Life. I am pumped for this day. I am pumped for this conversation. It is near and dear to my heart, and I want to explain why that is and where I came from, because I think that most people kind of look at my life and look at my story and think that I was always like this, that I was always able to speak, that I was always able to come across, get my point across, and I always had this kind of strong personality. And that is absolutely not true. And for those of you who grew up with me, you know this is not true. When I was younger, growing up, I had a plethora of bullies in my life, from my older siblings to my younger sibling to not friends, to frenemies, I guess you'd call them. Eventually, I actually ended up becoming friends with some of my bullies. And I had situations in my life that continually activated a feeling of low self-esteem and low self-confidence in me. And because of that, I actually lived a lot of my story in a less than state for a very long time. I would say probably within the last 10 years, my self-confidence and self-esteem have really up leveled because I've stepped in, because I've gotten out of my comfort zone and I've done so many things to activate that power within me and release the low self-esteem and low self-confidence. I've done a shit ton of work, and that's why I feel like it's not a brag. It's literally, I feel like I can speak to these subjects because of the things that I've come through and the ways in which I've taken life and no longer allowed it to have its way with me, no longer allowed low self-esteem and low self-confidence to be my identity and to be my story. So so in that growing up, environment, we are often not inspired to our self-esteem or our self-confidence. And the reason for that is, we're not surrounded by people who really know how to do that or really understand how to inspire that in us. Or, because we come into this world feeling a little unworthy, we come in as like these helpless little babies, and then we're put in these families where there's circumstances and situations that don't inspire that power. Because, if we're growing up and we're children and we have our own agendas, and we all know these strong spirited kids, right? Like my granddaughter is one, her mom is one, and we have these strong spirited kids. The idea in parenting is to squash that spirit, not consciously, but in a way so that we can get them to behave, so we can get them to be disciplined, so we can get them to live life in a structured way and be good girls and be good boys, right? Like that's the whole idea of our parenting game and what we've been taught and what our parents have taught us. Well, unfortunately, in that game, when we start to become these people pleasers, which I was a major people pleaser, I just wanted to make people happy so they would like me. I often looked for love in all the wrong places, and I often looked for love from a place of lack. And because of that, I created a lot of scenarios that solidified that feeling of low self-esteem and low self-confidence in me, to the point where, doing a presentation at school was like next to death, my fear of death. And they say people, everyone kind of has that fear. And it's mostly the fear of judgment, I think, when it comes to speaking or really using your voice. I think it's that fear of judgment, and it's the judgment of ourselves. It's in that not loving ourselves, not liking ourselves, that we get worried about that. And then we usually have really crappy experiences in presentations or speaking that solidifies the fact that we're not powerful creators, that we're not able to actually create from the power of who we are and use our voices, right? We get nervous, we shut down. So it just becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So throughout the course of my life, I was always a follower. And I'm not telling you this to bore you and tell you my life story. I just want you to understand like how you can come through this and come through the other side and start living your gifts and your talents in your power, and kind of what the progression was to get me to where I am today, which is basically leading people to this. right? I'm leading people to their power. I'm leading people to understand their manifestation abilities. And that gets me super jazzed up. And it actually creates more confidence in me as I see them playing out their stories. So my new challenge, I'll just give you a little tidbit of that right now, starts on 2/2/22. Just love that date so much. It's so powerful. And in that experience of that 6 week challenge with me, we are going to clear this shit out. We are going to get that low self-esteem, low self-confidence to be cleared out. Will it be completely cleared out? That is up to you, and that is up to your progression of your expansion and growth. But I will tell you, we will create a momentum that will continue the process so that eventually you'll be standing in a place that feels a hell of a lot better, a hell of a lot more powerful, and your manifestational abilities will increase exponentially. We have had people in these groups, I've had about 20 people that have gone through these groups that have now manifested millions of dollars. Oh, that one lit me up. And the coolest thing is, we got to talk about it during our money teaching. So I do a 6 week program, and there's many different facets of it. And if you are really interested, set up a transformation call with me, livelifegolden@gmail, or you can get me on Facebook or Instagram or my website, livelifegolden.com. And, I can tell you all about the program, plus do a transformation call so you can get a little sample of my work, which is energy release work and creating new intentions for new manifestations. So millions of dollars, promotions. We've had people promoted. We've had people let go of relationships, connect with new relationships, improve the relationships they have. We've had people lose weight, align with, decide, and connect with nutrition and workout programs. I actually designed some of that stuff too. I'm kind of like the jack of all trades. What I've done with my groups basically is give them everything they need to be successful in every area of their life. So we do the 6 week program, which is extremely tailored to the group. And it's cool when these groups come together because they are very much in alignment and they kind of have the same things to work on. So that's amazing. And then afterwards, now my groups wanted to stay. So we're doing a little subscription-based thing. And every month I bring them a new teaching, which has been incredible. So it's kind of like coaching for life. This will also, if you want it, this will also unleash your ability to go on retreat with me. So we are doing, so exciting. We are organizing an Orange County retreat this year. I'm sure these retreats will go all over the world eventually, but I want to be home. I want to be where I connect with the energy really deeply, and I want to share where I live with people because it's so beautiful and I love it so much. So I am looking at Airbnbs right now, and I believe it'll be in September. We're going to launch our first Live Life Golden retreat, Ignite the Fire Within, and it is going to be fantastic. So if you have ever looked at my Facebook page and see what I do on Fun Fridays, it's going to be like Fun Friday for a week long with some manifesting, spirituality, meditation mixed in. So it's going to be super duper fun and really high vibrational connection with that higher state of consciousness is my intention with those groups and with the retreats. I have to have people go through this program first because I need you in a certain state before you come. I may eventually do beginner retreats. I don't know. But it's just easier to have some of the work already pre-paved and to step into this in a high vibrational place. Plus, I really want it to be fun. I don't want to be with low vibe people, but I have not connected with any of those in my group. So that's great. All right, so we're going to take this talk, understanding self-esteem and self-confidence, to a whole new level. And the very first thing, the very foundational thing I like to do is to come from the definition. And the definitions are always so interesting to me when I look these things up. Self-esteem is confidence in one's own worth, so it's connected to worthiness or abilities and self-respect. And then it went on to say it is an individual's subjective, I love the word subjective, evaluation of their own worth. Self-esteem encompasses beliefs about oneself as well as emotional states. Emotional states such as triumph, despair, pride, and shame. So that is the coolest definition. I just love it because it encompasses everything. So, if you're in a low self-esteem state, you're going to feel a lot of shame. You're going to feel a lot of despair. You're going to feel a lot of unworthiness. If you're in that high self-esteem place, you're going to be in a place of triumph and pride and knowing who you are. I think that is the strongest foundational explanation I can give to self-esteem and self-confidence is knowing who you are. Now, this is not to be confused with people that you know or yourself being egotistical. And the reason for that is like somebody who brags about themselves a lot, somebody who has to tell you about all of their accomplishments, somebody who talks about themselves incessantly and never asks you about yourself. They actually have low self-esteem. I know, it's crazy. I recently, this got unhinged in me in a download, and it made me really fully recognize that people that do this, these super egotistical people that are living, from that ego state, it's not anything bad and they're not evil. They just don't recognize what they're doing to try to prove themselves. If you're trying to prove yourself, you're actually in a state of low self-esteem. So that they're coming from that energy of whatever trauma happened in their experience. I would say every connection to low self-esteem and low self-confidence comes from some sort of traumatic experience in your life, some sort of playground issue or friend issue or parents or siblings or some message, some belief system that you tuned into as a child that told you that you were not worthy, that you were not smart, that you didn't have what it took, and you weren't going to amount to anything, or like that your voice didn't matter. So if you have a really hard time using your voice and really sharing who you are and really sharing what you know, I mean, we are all experts in some sort of field. And if you don't feel like you're an expert in some sort of field, I am going to challenge you to go find it, because we do not come here with a purposeless state. We don't come here for that. We have all been through experiences, traumas, life experience that allows us to speak to something and to teach from something and to heal from doing that sort of teaching and sharing it with others. We all have something to be passionate about. And if you have been passionless and you don't know what it is, there could be a lot of shit on top of that. Like, you've always been just driven to make money and you've never really understood, like, you've been driven on a path to something that you really didn't want to do, but you're making so much money now that doesn't make sense for you, but you're dying inside. Like, you're not feeling good inside. And every day you wake up and you're miserable. You're in this quiet state of despair. So in that, it's time to start asking, what lights me up? What do I love? Like, what do I get excited about? What do I spend time looking at or researching? And if it's just like social media and you're scrolling a lot, good Lord, like, we've got to stop doing that. We really do. We've got to start creating more and stop scrolling less, because if you're doing that, you're really wasting a lot of time and a lot of life and a lot of your own ability to create and manifest the life that you want. If you are scrolling all the time, if you are drinking all the time, if you are smoking pot all the time, if you're doing drugs all the time, you're in a low vibrational state that's not going to allow for all these really cool things to light up for you. So I would definitely work on getting rid of some of that stuff. So this is how you know if you have low self-esteem. I did this with the chakras last week, and I thought it was cool because I think sometimes when we don't ask these questions and we've kind of been living life on the surface, we haven't gotten really deep in our spirituality or gotten deep in our own path, we haven't really asked the questions to even know where we're at. And we have these tendencies. We've identified with these tendencies that don't allow us to really shine our light or even to know what that feels like or looks like. We have shrunk so much in our lives. We have dimmed our light so much in our lives, in the under the impression of like being a martyr or being a good person or being in service. We've done that so much that we've lost pieces of ourselves, and not lost forever, but we've disconnected from the part of ourselves, that solar plexus part of ourselves, of the power of who we truly are and what we truly came here to be, that purposeful part of ourselves, connecting with the joy that we felt as a child, go back to that childhood. I don't know, maybe it was traumatic. I don't know. But go back to that childhood and ask yourself what lit you up as a kid. What were you doing as a kid that really made life come through you and you really got excited about it? Think about that, because there's clues. There's clues back there before your self-esteem got trampled on. So here you go. Saying negative things to yourself. This is listening, saying negative things to yourself, like in your mind, that shitty committee, listening to that shitty committee, right? You're not good enough. You get the doubts going. This still happens to me, guys. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Usually on Sunday, and it's not every Sunday, obviously, but I think on Sundays sometimes, because I've had a little break from work, I've had a little break from social media, like all of a sudden I'm like, what am I doing? And why am I here? And should I even do this anymore? It happens. And it's an old story. It's an old neural pattern for me that I am working on shutting down. And there's two laws right now that I want to discuss really quick before we get into this low self-esteem conversation. One is the law of attraction and the other one is law of repulsion. So law of attraction is like what is trying to come to you, right? It's like who you really are, what is really trying to come to you, really wants to identify with you because it's who you are vibrationally. It is your essence. It is who you came in here, the brilliance of who you came in here to be. And if you don't feel that brilliance and you don't believe you're that brilliance, I'm going to call bullshit on that, because we are all connected to this infinite stream of incredible wisdom, infinite intelligence. All of this is streaming through us. How we send it away is by tuning into those frequencies of low vibrational thoughts and beliefs about ourselves. That's how we push it away. And that's how we push everything away that we want to come to us, is by shutting things down, going into that low vibe state and listening to those old voices, those old stories, that stuff that absolutely is not true. It's not true. And if you need help with this, I can help. Let me assist you in releasing this shit so you can step into the power of who you are. When you are putting others' well-being above your own, I don't matter, doing that martyr thing, good Lord, shrinking during opportunities. So you've got an opportunity to speak, you've got this voice in your head that wants to say something, and you are shut down. A lot of times that's throat chakra stuff, but a lot of times it's like you're afraid to say something because you're afraid of judgment, you're afraid that people won't think you're smart. Not being able to use that voice is part of our self-esteem and self-confidence, and part of what needs to come out. If you've got, if you get that in your head a lot, when you're in a crowd of people or you're at work and people are sharing, ideas, and you can't share your ideas, you've got to do some work on that, because you do matter and what you say matters, and your ideas could be very brilliant. And if you are sharing and people are not listening or people are not receiving what you're sharing, there is not enough conduction of energy with your self-confidence and self-esteem and your belief in your own ideas. Yeah. And that's just working. That is really working and journaling and meditating. And I'm going to share your best ways of stepping away from that. Allowing others to let you feel less than. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I have people in my life, and I've witnessed people, and I've paid attention to what kind of how they conduct themselves. And there's even been experiences for me where I've been like, what the hell? Like, what is that about? So a long time ago, when I was in network marketing, I knew this woman, and she was incredibly brilliant. Like, when I spent time with her, I kind of hung on every word she said, and I thought she was so smart and so brilliant. But then she would get in front of people and get in front of, speaking engagements. She would start, and she would lose it. She would lose it. So she would shut down that channel of wisdom and get into that low self-esteem, not knowing who she was, not speaking from her heart or her power, which she had so much to offer. And then what would come out would really surprise me. It wasn't even a scratch of the surface of who she was. And because of that, it didn't feel authentic, it didn't feel real, and it didn't have much impact. And that's kind of sad. I have another friend who works at a place, and when her boss is around, she turns into a different person. And it's so interesting because I'm a good friend of hers, and I witnessed this, and I'm just like, and I have a different relationship with her boss, so I don't feel that way. But I have had situations where I feel that way with certain people. So I think what happens, and this is funny because it happened to my daughter the other day, which kind of brought this up for me. My daughter was going to an interview for a restaurant. She was going for like a hostessing waitress job. And it's a really nice restaurant. And the guy who owns the restaurant is a multi-millionaire, and he owns tons of restaurants. So the people that she had an interview with told her this and told her she would be meeting with this gentleman. And she was so nervous. She said she was more nervous than she's ever been in her life in meeting this guy, and she was unable to be herself with him. In fact, I'm not even sure if she got the job because she was unable to use her voice, to speak for herself, to tell him that she wanted the job. She said she just really couldn't speak because she was too nervous. And I'm like, honey, he's just a man. Like, it's so funny, the stature that we put on people. Like, even if you were ever to be in, around celebrities. I saw Diane Keaton a while ago, a few years ago. I saw her at a flea market, and I freaking love Diane Keaton. She is like one of my favorite actresses. I don't know if I would love her as a person, but everything she's ever acted in, I've seen, and I just adore her. And it was funny because my husband and I were kind of like around her, and she had this little cart, and she dropped something, and we both went and got it for her. And she said thank you, but she didn't want to be seen, and she didn't really. I could tell, that I really wanted to be respectful of her space. But afterwards, I thought, God, why didn't I tell her how much I have loved her work and appreciate her? But my voice shut down because I put her on some sort of crazy, stupid celebrity pedestal, right? Like, these are just people, and they've been given this perspective in life that causes us to act differently. So when I was in network marketing, the CEO of our company, who was the owner of the company, was this incredible man, and he had presence, and he had everything. Like, he was strong and powerful, and I would get so nervous around him that I couldn't be myself. Now, I don't know if that would happen today because I'm a very different person. And when I was coming into that network marketing company, I was just coming out of being a stay-at-home mom for a long, long time. And, I was just finding my voice. So I wasn't in that place of really knowing who I was. And because we were going through such financial struggle, there was a lot of shame there. There was a lot of, just like survival mode. Like, it was really challenging for me to stand in my power at that point in my life. So as you go through your life experience, looking at those ways in which you have shrunk back and you have had that low self-esteem and low self-confidence is a window into healing it. It's a window into when I do this, why do I do this? So I'm going to give you some questions to ask to clear this up, but I want to still stay on the track of knowing if you have low self-esteem. Being afraid to follow your callings, right? Being afraid to follow your callings goes along with feeling unsupported, feeling unworthy, and not believing in your manifestational abilities. Being hypersensitive to failure, so you never try. Like, you're super scared of making a mistake. Oftentimes you walk around in life believing that you made a lot of mistakes, so you live in regret. And you live in that distrust of yourself because you go, I screwed this up before, and I should have done this, this, and this. And because of that, you're in a low vibe state that doesn't allow your self-esteem and self-confidence to really shine. Letting people treat you badly. So people that disrespect you, people that take advantage of you, these are all places of low self-esteem and low self-worthiness. Treating yourself badly, and living in victimhood. So victimhood, I've done an episode on victimhood before. Victimhood is a very important topic when you're talking about being a powerful creator. And the reason, and look at my Facebook page. If you don't follow me on Facebook, it's under Goldyn Duffy, and I have a group, Live Life Goldyn, there. I put up a post today about victimhood that was truly something that had been driven from a response to a post that I had put up. It was a response to someone who was asking for help, and I offered help, and they attacked me. And normally I would get, feel a little shameful. Maybe I would feel like, oh, I'm, speaking out of turn. But this person had asked for help, and I was literally offering help from my love and my compassion and my understanding of being a parent and a mom of really challenging teenagers. So eventually I just said, "Oh wow, I'm done, and sorry if I insulted you," and I just let it go. And it was interesting because it didn't affect me the way in the past some of that stuff could have affected me. So this person I could see was in pain, right? Like I understand people when they're in pain, they will lash out. Also, this person was in victimhood, because when you are in victimhood, you will not allow anyone's advice to come in. You will reject all advice. Do you do that? Like when you have a problem and you bring it to somebody and you ask their advice, and then they give you advice and you push it away and you reject it and you give reasons why it won't work. Do you do that? Because that's victimhood. Yeah. That's the solutions are trying to come to you and you are in the problem. So the problem and the solution have different energies, so that can't even get to you. You won't even hear it. So yeah, I try to check myself giving advice like that to people that really don't. It's not that they don't want it, it's that they're not in vibrational alignment with it to even hear it. So it can offend them, it can tick them off, and that's okay, because that's just where they're at, right? So the ways in which you have lived your life experience, so looking through like what you came through as a child, those different little traumas and stuff, this is going to take a level of awareness. And there's philosophies in law of attraction that say you do not need to go back to your childhood. There's a lot of philosophies like just move forward, let that stuff go, and to a degree I'm good with that. But where it doesn't work is if you've got these vibrational, uh, let's call them vibrational injuries, right? Vibrational wounds that you are still connecting with. Then it's really valuable to go back and journal, work with an energy release person, energy healer, join my group, and start looking at these things and going, okay, if this happened to me as a child, right? If I spoke up in class, right? This could be like the simplest thing. If I spoke up in class and I raised my hand and I got the answer wrong, what did that do to me? How did that make me feel? And am I still carrying that energy around with me? And let me release it. Let's release it. So it's working on that energy field, it's releasing it, it's letting it go, it's breathing that energy out of your body. It's asking yourself, where does this reside in my body? Could be blocking your creative center, it could be blocking your root chakra because you can't accept people's support. It could be blocking your solar plexus, which is your self-esteem and self-confidence, your throat, where you speak from. So in journaling and getting aware and understanding where this started and then where it showed up in your life. So for me, I was always a follower. Throughout my life experience with friends, for the most part, I was a follower. I would follow people, I would dress like them, I would talk like them, I would cut my hair like them. And if I ever, oh my God, I can't believe this is coming up. If I ever stepped outside of my comfort zone to do something that was original or unique, I had experiences where people made fun of me. Okay, you ready for this one? I can't believe this is coming up. So when I was in middle school, I was bullied big time. I had all of these girls around me. There was this boy who wanted to date me in 7th grade, and I wasn't interested in him. So he told all of the 8th grade, you know, really important and powerful girls that I called them sluts. Yes, this happened. And they all hated me and they all came after me. And the grade of set my 7th grade experience, I went to school in fear every day, terror every day. And if I ever told my mom about it, which I'm sure I remember telling her about it, I wouldn't let her do anything because because I didn't want to make it worse. That's what we do when we're bullied. We're fearful of doing anything. So this went on for the whole of my 7th grade. And I remember one time in 7th grade, I decided to wear these high heel sneakers. My mom had cool style and I borrowed her shoes. And thinking back now to these shoes, they were fugly. They were definitely ugly. And I wore them because I had this really cute mini skirt, and they went with the mini skirt. So I wore them, and I got just brutalized for these shoes, just brutalized and walked around in shame all day over them. So that was my 7th grade experience. And then I got into 8th grade and I started to bully somebody. Yeah, because that's often what we do, right? Like we have to figure out a way for us to hold our power over other people. And that's oftentimes why we turn into bullies. And a lot of times, if you've got, kids who have ever been bullied, I've seen this as an experience. A lot of times, like with my girls, if they were bullied from someone, I would often see these girls being bullied either by someone else or by their parents. And then they would have to hold their power over somebody else. So that's like that cycle of bullying. So I bullied this girl on the bus, and it was just terrible. I believe I did apologize to her. And my bully apologized to me too. It was like 20 years later, but she did. So in 8th grade, I kind of got a little bit of my power back because these girls were gone. They were in high school. And then when I was coming into high school, I was freaking terrified to go to high school. And what ended up happening, and you can call this a manifestation for sure, and maybe I was starting to up level a little bit in my self-esteem because I was, powerful 8th grader. My brother was dating this girl, and I'm still friends with her on Facebook. And she annihilated the bullies for me. She was super tough. I think she was a sophomore. Or maybe even a junior. She was super tough, and nobody wanted to mess with her. And she basically like just cleared out the bullies for me. And she was like, if you ever lay a hand on her, and she protected me. Now, no one ever laid a hand on me. That's the ridiculous thing. I mean, not in school. Because of that, I came through high school and I was feeling a little bit better about myself. And that's actually when I met my husband. I met my husband in middle school, but we started dating in high school. So I had that. That was a huge part of my identity, was us being this cute little couple. And I think I relied on him a lot for my self-esteem and self-confidence and just kind of protecting me. And that went on for a very long time, even in our marriage, as far as me having a voice with him, or feeling like, he was kind of not parenting me, but there were often times where I felt like he was in control. It was what he said that went, often. And because I think what compounded that low self-esteem and low self-confidence was coming through, I was a very young mom, and we decided when I was like 23 or 24, I was waitressing, and it was a bad thing, like at a bar, and it was bad, that I was going to quit and just, stay home with the kids. And when I started to do that, I kind of lost myself even more, became a very good mom, like very good mom. That was part of what I identified with. I studied parenting. I used different techniques, and I kept rising above. And plus I started to become very spiritual. I started meditating, and I started to really start knowing who I was more in that mom role. But that was the only role that I really knew who I was. And then fast forward, we had our 4 girls. Well, actually, we had the 2 girls. We joined a Catholic church, and I started getting leadership roles in that church. I went to a Bible study. I started running a Bible study. And people started recognizing my leadership qualities and my ability to speak. And I wasn't even really ready for it yet, but for some reason people were recognizing that. And when I was in a spiritual state, and this is very true of my sessions and what I run, I get into just this wisdom channel and my inspired state. A lot of what I write is part of that wisdom channel that I'm connected to, that gives me all the confidence in the world, because it's the infinite energy of all that is. So I'm good, but I don't always even take the credit for that, because really the only credit I feel like I can take for that is opening myself up to it and being open to it, and just being a part of it, just allowing it and being a part of it. So that's when I started to kind of build on that self-esteem. And I still was doing a lot of saying yes when I should have been saying no. And I still lived in a lot of resentment, and I still let people get away with, disrespecting me and not treating me well. But I was starting to, create from that confidence of knowing who I was. So pay attention to that. Like, where in your life have you been being called to these states of self-confidence? Because I know some people that can go to work and rock it, rock it, do a presentation because they've got, this wisdom channel to their subject matter. And then when they're amongst their friends, they shut down and they don't have a lot to say. Or they're in a crowd of people and they're just like, they don't have anything, they can't speak because that channel shuts down because, they don't trust that they know what to say. I've always been really good in conversations with people. And I think it's because I always take an interest in other people and I ask a lot of questions. And that makes me a great conversationalist. And I think it makes people feel that, and in the past, it's been a way for me to act confident when I didn't feel confident, because it's like if I could just put the spotlight on them. So look at that through your life experience. Where have you been living in victimhood? Where have you been shrinking? What people activate this in you? Like, what people in your life? Is it your mom? Is it your dad? Is it your spouse? Is it a certain friend that you have? Is it your boss? Who is causing you to shrink? Because they're not calling you to shrink. They're actually calling you to step into your power. And I'm going to explain how to do that, because the biggest thing is recognizing that this low self-esteem, low self-confidence, powerlessness, unworthiness is a huge part of your expansion and growth. It is an important and necessary part of your expansion and growth. And when you start to get that and you start releasing the energy around it and that old story, those old beliefs, you're going to start rocking life at a whole new level. And you're going to be able to speak to things from that confidence and from that, that experience. There was a story, and I don't know why this is coming up either. So funny. It was a network marketing story, and I cannot remember who it was, but it was about this guy, and I believe he was selling like chickens. And it was because of his confidence that he was able to do this in a way that allowed him to become like the top salesman. And I'm butchering this story, but the idea behind it, when we were doing network marketing, we were selling, this program for greeting cards and gifts. We were so freaking excited and so confident in what we were doing that a lot of times people would do it with us and they had no idea what they were signing up for, because it was our energy. So your energy that you conduct into things is what really produces results. It's that believing in yourself, believing in who you are, and coming from that energy that actually makes people want to partner with you and become more with you. So, if you're in a network marketing company and you're not feeling real sure about yourself and you haven't done really well, you've got to start working on this piece, because that's a huge part of people partnering with you and feeling secure that your relationship with them is going to help take them to another level in their life. Okay. Where are we? One of the ways, not believing in yourself and allowing things to happen when, you're in these relationships that are not necessarily good for you and you cannot communicate. We've all been there, right? Like, you can't communicate in these relationships. You can't ask for what you need. You're constantly giving. They're constantly taking. There's this imbalance in your relationships, and it ends up resulting in a crash and burn site. I have had so many of these friendships end this way because we could never communicate what wasn't working for us, because we weren't as confident in our own beings to be able to do that, to lend the respect to one another, to say, look, this isn't working for me. Let's figure out another way. It just ends up becoming an end to the relationship. When you are in a lot of shame, when you feel shame about something, or you feel less than and you start shrinking. I had a lot of shame around financial struggle, for sure. Like, it became our identity in our network marketing company. We shared all the time about the struggle that we were coming through. In fact, I think it kept us in our struggle for a long time because it was our story and a lot of people resonated with it. So I think it made it last longer. And in that shame, when you really feel shame, or when you make a mistake and you feel that low, dull shame, like this would happen to me all the time when I would make mistakes that would cost us money because I wasn't making money. And that sucked. Like speeding, like getting a speeding ticket. I recently got a speeding ticket, And I felt no shame. I was just like, okay, whatever, I'll pay it. It's no big deal. So it was interesting because looking at that over the course of my life, when I would make mistakes that would cost us money and I would feel that shame, I know it was low self-esteem and low self-confidence. And anytime I do something like in my groups or, with the computer, like so often I've had issues with, technology, and I no longer feel shame about it. So that's the repulsion. That's letting go of what I don't want to experience anymore. So I'm not responding to it anymore like that. So if I screw something up, I'm like, hey, I'm human and I'm working through this place of being very authentic and very real and showing people there is no shame in figuring things out and there is no shame in making mistakes. Shit, it happens, right? We can be sorry. We can apologize. We can do better. We can create more awarenesses. So, so letting go of shame and no longer feeling guilty or feeling stupid about mistakes that we've made in the past, you know that you're doing the healing work. You know you're getting back to that healing work. So, how do we rise above? How do we start answering these strong callings? The greatest way that you are being called, to rise above this stuff is your situations. It's the things that have caused the most trauma in your life, the things that have caused the most struggle, the things that have been your greatest challenges are your greatest invitation to start working from your self-confidence. So looking back over your story and seeing where you've manifested, seeing what you've powered through, seeing the dreams that you've realized is a really important part of owning that piece of yourself. So of course, I'm going to tell you that meditation is key. Meditation is absolutely key in becoming a greater, more confident being in yourself. And this is why, because you're going to create that space between yourself, that true essence of who you are. When you go into a higher state of consciousness, when you let go of thought, when you quiet the mind, you are no longer in those lower fields, those denser fields, that physical field of density. You're in a higher state of confidence or consciousness and confidence where energy flows. The energy of who you truly are and where your infinite energy and intelligence meet. And when you spend more time there, and I only call people to 15, 20 minutes a day for the most part. If you want to do a second one, that's great. I will often do 30 minutes to an hour, depending on my day. But spending time there is what really connected me to know who I really am and started to amplify my intuition and that wisdom of channel that I use in my life experience to create money, to create inspiration, to share my voice with people, and to create the fulfillment that I live. All right, so it's through those struggles. It is really and truly through your struggles and the challenges even of today that are calling you to rise above, to absolutely call you to rise above. So here are some questions to ask yourself in your journaling. What am I afraid of? So when you're feeling that low self-esteem, low self-confidence, what am I afraid of? What is my deepest fear when it comes to doing this thing or spending time with this person? Okay. Does my personality change around certain people and in certain circumstances? And why? Why does my personality change? Dig in here. Dig in. I had to ask myself this with certain people. Why does that happen? Why do they throw me off my game? Well, guess what? They're doing that as an invitation for you to heal something so you can step more fully into your worthiness. If you were already feeling worthy and powerful, no one would be able to do that to you. No one ever. What do I believe about this person? Okay, so do I believe they're smarter than me? Do I believe they're richer than me? Do I believe they're more famous than me? Do I believe they have something over me? What is the belief that I am conducting from? What is the story I've wrapped around this person to put them on such a high pedestal? My grandfather had a saying, and it was, we all put our pants on at one leg at a time. And that was his way of saying, not that we're all the same, but we are. We are all human. We are all having this human experience, and we all have these energies and things, powerlessness stuff to work through and rise above. And those that you see that are the most powerful, like a Tony Robbins, right? They have been through the biggest, if you have ever heard his story, it's fascinating. They have been through the biggest hurdles you could get through, and it's made them the most powerful, and it's allowed them to speak to the most things. So is this true? Like, is this true about this person? Are they better than me? Are they greater than me? Should they take up more space than me? Should they, be honored and revered and all of that? Because sometimes we've just got this false perception of people and this ability to just like downplay ourselves in the face of other people. And because of that, we get into these powerless states. So dig into this. Is this true? Do I want this to be true? Or do I want to have more of an even exchange with this person? Do I want to allow myself to learn from them and to grow with them and allow myself to step into more because of them? Use them as a shining example of how I really want to be. Are they more powerful than me? Are they better than me? Am I doing this comparison thing that makes me feel less than? Or are we all different? Do we all have our own strengths? Do we all have our own worthiness in different areas? You may be really good at something that they're not. And oftentimes we look at people's life stories and we think they're perfect, right? Especially with social media facades. And we look at their life and then all of a sudden we find out like their marriage crumbled, or some of them like have committed suicide, right? Like it didn't look as good as it looked on the outside. So we may have this false perception of who they really are and what their life is really like. And we don't really know their struggles because they're not showing us that. Okay, what is this calling me to? What is this calling me to? How am I rising above this? How can I exercise my self-confidence more? What can I do? Can I use my voice? Can I share my ideas? Can I find a way to step into my power? Can I do that? When you ask these questions, I know I've said this before, you activate energy. And when you activate energy, the answers have the ability to come to you. And then before you know it, boom, you have physical manifestation. And when you get physical manifestation about something that you've wanted for a long time or something that you've put out there that you want to manifest, the confidence in manifesting becomes stronger and it becomes who you are, right? I'm a master manifester. And it doesn't mean that I manifest every single thing that I desire so far, because if I did, it would be time to go and be over. There's always new desires, there's always new manifesting, and there's always times that cause me to pull back and look at my conduction of energy, which makes me even more powerful. But I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have moments where I'm not manifesting what I want. So I've got to work on that. So it's always a call for more. It's always a call for more power. It's always a call for more awareness. And it's always a call for more of an opportunity for you to step into your power. So meditation allows you to know yourself better. It clears out old stories. It makes way for newness, for new energies. It allows you to become more, which means you can step into your power. It helps you to know who you are, and it helps you to tune out that shitty committee. Yeah, tuning out the shitty committee. If you feel like that committee has your attention a lot, right? More than just like a day a week or a day a month. If you feel like every day you're battling with that voice, then notice it, but don't believe it. Yeah. So that's what I was doing recently. I was noticing it, but I kept saying, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. I have evidence that goes against that. So continue to pull yourself away from that belief and towards what you know, what you've manifested, what you've done so far. So always taking acknowledgement of what you've already manifested is a great way to tune yourself into manifesting more and getting yourself out of those belief systems around your low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and then just clearing the pathway, recognizing the thoughts that come that activate that energy in you, going within, asking this energy to be released, breathing it out, working in that scope of your journaling. What is this all about for me? And then responding differently. So responding differently doesn't mean you don't have the same ideas. It doesn't mean that you don't have the same stinking thinking. It doesn't mean you don't have the shitty committee over here saying, you suck, right? It doesn't mean that. It just means you tune it out and you don't grab onto it and you don't pull into that bad neighborhood and get out of your car. You go, I'm done. I'm done with that line of thinking. I'm done with that line of believing, and I'm going to go over here and show myself how powerful I am by no longer connecting with that. I'm going to go meditate. I'm going to go do something that brings me passion and joy. I'm going to do something I'm good at to remind myself how good I am. I'm going to connect with the people who really love me, who really see me for who I am, the ones who really know me and know how awesome I am. That's important. It's important to hang out with people who recognize that in you and who feel that energy from you. Just get out of those lower, denser frequencies. That's a shitty radio station. You've tuned into it for long enough. It's time to turn it off. And it's time to tune into the radio stations that up-level you, that allow you to feel energetically connected to that truth and brilliance of who you really are. You've seen glimpses of it. I know you have. And if you haven't, Jesus, get in my group so I can show it to you. I think that is one of my secrets and my secret sauce is I see people for who they really are. And then I remind them about it and I share it with them and I activate more of it. And that allows them to step into it. And it's my favorite. It's my favorite thing to do. It absolutely is. All right, I'm going to cut this a little short today. I usually do an hour-long show, but I've got places to go, people to see. I am going roller skating today. Super excited. This was something that was out of my comfort zone. I've done a few things in the last few years out of my comfort zone. I took a ballet class because that was a regret I had when I was younger for quitting ballet. That was super fun. I liked it. I did well. I did really well. I was very confident in that, where I remember as a kid, that was damaging to my self-esteem when my teacher would yell out in the middle of everybody that I was doing it wrong. There's a wound, baby. And I healed that wound by doing it again and standing in my power. That's how I healed that wound. And it was a calling. It was a calling, and then a class came. So interesting. And then the other one was roller skating. I always love roller skating. I love being on wheels. There's something about being on wheels, like a bike or roller skates or a horse. Like there's just something about being carried like that. So my daughter bought me roller skates last Christmas. It has taken me a year to manifest the right people and the right circumstances. And we went last week for the first time. I'd gone a couple of times. I'd taken a couple of lessons, learned how to fall. I have pads. I'm padded up, so that helps my confidence. And my girlfriends and I met at a blacktop in Newport Beach, California, by the ocean. And it was incredible. It was so fun, and I'm way better than I remembered being. And I found my confidence in it, and it feels amazing. And my whole goal is to be able to roller skate down the boardwalks where all the people are. So we're practicing here, and then we're moving to that because I watch people and I go, oh, I want to do that. I want to be that. And I know I have the ability to do that by just by activating it, by manifesting it, and by stepping into it, by getting out of that comfort zone and deciding who I want to be and what I want to live. And you can do it too. All right. Love you all. Peace.